Throughout history, there have been rarely any other prisons which are more notorious and brutal than the Tower of London. During the reign of King Henry VIII, the Tudor monarch had two of his wives executed inside the walls of the fortress by axe and sword, and it was also where the teenage 9-day queen, Lady Jane Grey, lost her head during the reign of Bloody Mary I. However, it was also the site of torture, where people were subjected to terrible treatment on devices such as a rack and the scavenger's daughter. In the 16th century, it transitioned from being a royal residence to a site of royal imprisonment, but there were prisoners who found themselves locked up there for some significant amounts of time. In fact, one of the earliest prisoners of the Tower of London actually became one of the only men to ever escape from it, and he was the first to successfully do so. The incredible escape of Ranulf Flambard has gone down in the Tower's story as a remarkable attempt. Welcome to the fortress. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. Ranulf Flambard was born around the year 1060, and he worked to begin with for the Bishop of Bayeux, Odo, who was a half-brother of William the Duke of Normandy, or William the Conqueror, as he was known following his successful conquest of England after the Battle of Hastings. Flambard was known for his intelligence and looks, and he was also very fiery and was very spirited. But he was a successful administrator, and he helped to make the King of England rather rich, as his work went towards increasing the royal coffers and the treasury. He was involved in the creation of the Domesday Book across England, a survey that recorded all of the land and what animals people had, and this then helped the king tax the people. It also helped William to understand the land that he had conquered, but within the king's court, Flambard had a rather differing reputation, and some resented him as he was considered of low birth, but he also ordered and bossed people around who were higher class than him. He was a favourite of William the Conqueror and served as a keeper of the king's seal. However, when he was once travelling on the River Thames, he was actually seized by pirates. To ensure that the royal seal did not fall into enemy hands, he threw it into the ocean and the Thames estuary. However, when the king died, he divided his land between his oldest son, who got Normandy, and his third son, William Rufus, who was given England, and Ranulf Flambard then remained in England to serve the English king. He continued to serve as a keen administrator, and he oversaw the creation of a number of building projects, and also managed a number of abbeys and became very wealthy. Flambard was then made the Bishop of Durham, and some believe that to rise to this position he actually bribed the King of England with his cash. But he was running England whilst the king was away in Normandy waging war, and he was in control of the English government. He oversaw the creation of the first stone bridge in London, as well as expanding the defences of the Tower of London, enclosing the White Tower in an inner wall, which would later be ironic, as it would escape from the very fortress. But following the death of William Rufus, Henry I came onto the English throne, and Flambard's reputation went quickly downhill. He was imprisoned immediately by Henry inside the Tower of London on the 15th of August 1100 and was accused of embezzlement. He was locked up inside the very structure that he had helped make difficult to escape from, as he had built walls around the White Tower. But the tower was very different to how it is today, with many individual parts to it, and it was only just a white tower with a wall around it. To people inside of London, they greatly feared it, as it was a sign of Norman oppression and conquest. However, Ranulf Flambard, as stated, was the first man who would manage to escape from the tower, and he was also one of the earliest, if not the first royal prisoner held inside. He used some of his friends to help mastermind an escape, and on the 3rd of February 1101, his escape attempt took place. The bishop, it was claimed, was seen descending from the window of his cell simply by a rope, and he practically just climbed out of the Tower of London by using a rope which he had managed to smuggle in for him. This rope was hidden inside a huge jug of wine. Imprisonment at the Tower was not always torture and brutality, as high-profile prisoners often were given rather luxurious stays locked up in the Tower. Ranulf was allowed the wine, and he almost held a party with the guards, who were meant to be keeping him under lock and key. These guards drank so much wine that they collapsed and fell asleep, and whilst they were sound asleep, Ranulf managed to use the rope to then escape his prison cell, then make his way out of the tower. His friends had also arranged for a boat to take him out of the area, and a ship got there to whisk him away. On this vessel were a number of Flambard's treasures and valuables, as well as his mother, who was very elderly at the time. The boat then took him across the English Channel for the safety of Normandy. But the English king, Henry I, had taken all of Flambard's lands as he heard about his escape from the Tower of London, and when he got to Normandy, he sided with Robert Curthose, the rival of the English king, and he worked for him, and he then also managed to convince him to make a play for the English throne, and to also then try and depose the English king Henry I. Ranulf's arrival in France was what led to the invasion of England, and he was given specific duties by Robert Curthose, including securing the defection of a number of the English king's sailors and ships. He convinced them to come and fight for the Normans, and Curthose invaded England in July 1101, with Flambard with him, but at some point he gave up his claim to the English throne, and then signed the Treaty of Alton. This agreement claimed that Curthose would leave England and would recognise Henry as the rightful King of England, and in return Henry then had to pay him a large amount of money and concede the territory inside of Normandy he believed he held. Henry later then went back on this and launched a large invasion of Normandy, but he did pardon Ranulf Flambard, the man who escaped from the Tower of London. For the rest of his life, the former Bishop of Durham lived a very peaceful life. He spent his time inside of church and devoting his life to prayer. But inside of the medieval period, Ranulf Flambard is sometimes considered a scheming, power-hungry man who rose to rather dizzying heights, but following the death of two kings that he was very loyal to, he would fall from grace and would find himself locked up inside of a fortress that many people believed was impossible to escape from. But he today is most famously remembered for being one of the only people to be locked inside the Tower of London who have escaped from it, and he was one of the Tower's first royal prisoners. There were only a select few who managed to escape in the centuries later, when the Tower got much more tougher and gained a much more serious and notorious reputation. Thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching.